Hi everyone, my name is Jess Vickers. I'm going to start off by speaking briefly in general about the topic that applies to my case and the applicable laws before getting into it. Transgender issues and workplace equality have been put in the spotlight in recent years, thankfully for the American population and transgender people. We have started to more widely accept the transgender community and LGBT community at that. Some laws affecting transgender individuals in the workplace include Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This law prohibits sexual discrimination in employment. Recently, courts, the U.S. Justice Department, and the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or as we've referred to it as in our book, the EEOC, have agreed that discrimination because an employee is transgender or gender nonconforming, or because he or she refuses to conform to gender stereotypes, is sexual discrimination under this law. We also have the Civil Service Reform Act of 1978, which prohibits discrimination by the federal government on the basis of conduct which does not adversely affect the performance of the job, meaning you cannot not hire or fire an employee for being gay or transgender as long as that has absolutely nothing to do with how they can perform their job. We have two more laws here. The Executive Order 13087 prohibits discrimination in federal employment based on sexual orientation or identity. And Executive Order 13672 prohibits anti-LGBT discrimination by federal contractors. Lastly, before getting to the case in point, I just want to outline some transgender rights in the workplace that are laws, or legally the rights that every transgender person has. You have the right to be treated with respect and not be harassed. You have the right to transition at the workplace. That means that if you've been employed at a place for an extended period of time or even a brief period of time, you have the right to transition from male to female or from female to male at that workplace. And a lot of times if you go to an HR department in a company, they'll help you transition by changing your name or selected pronouns. You have the right to dress according to your gender identity. You have the right to be called by your chosen name and gender appropriate pronouns. And for those of you who don't know what they mean by gender appropriate pronouns, it's as a woman, I prefer to be called her. That is my pronoun. If I were a man, if I identified as a male, I would prefer him or his. So that's something to keep in mind. You have the right to use restrooms and locker rooms consistent with your gender identity. So now that I went through that, I'll talk a little bit about the case that I have selected. The case that I selected is Broussard versus First Tower Loan. First Tower Loan is a company based out of Mississippi. The incident took place in Lake Charles, Louisiana. What ended up happening was Tristan Broussard was a manager trainee and was fired because he was transgender and did not conform to the management's gender-based expectations. So when Tristan Broussard was submitting some final employment papers after a couple weeks of being employed, he was required to give his ID, which stated that legally he was a female. After his manager discovered Tristan's legal gender, they promptly informed First Tower's Vice President David Morgan. Morgan traveled to the Lake Charles location and met with Broussard during this meeting. Morgan informed Broussard that he must act and dress female in the workplace. He gave Broussard a handbook that included the ways in which a female should be dressed in the workplace. Broussard explained that he had made the transition and had been living as a male for over 2 years and would not and could not dress and act female. Morgan explained that he would confuse customers, and that was their reason for needing him to dress female. Not only that, Morgan told Broussard that he needed to sign off on a piece of paper that said that he would not only dress female, act female in the workplace. When going on company trips, he would stay in hotel rooms with females, and he would use a female bathroom. When Broussard refused to sign these papers, he was immediately fired. Morgan said that First Tower may consider employing him if he underwent surgery to become male. After being fired, Broussard filed a legal action against First Tower, and after a couple months, the EEOC stepped in and also filed a second suit against Tower Loans for violating Title VII, and that is what they violated was under that title. You can't discriminate against someone because he or she refuses to conform to gender stereotypes, which is what happened. One case in the past that addresses discrimination based on gender identity is Price Waterhouse versus Hopkins, and that took place in 1989. The ruling was that discrimination based on gender stereotypes is because of sex, and then meaning that it violates Title VII. Currently, the case is still in court. It's in federal court currently, and Broussard is suing for lost compensation and mental well-being. But this is a huge case right now for the LGBT community, especially trans community, and it's going to hopefully enact laws and set up a precedent that this can't be done in the future. So hold tight. Hopefully it'll come to a good conclusion. Thanks.